peaceful desert lizard's lunch is violently interrupted by a massive explosion echoing from the nearby ruins. Our boy is sprinting for his absolute life, utterly convinced he is about to become mutant Chow. A bloodthirsty, red-haired ghoul closes the distance, roaring with a terrifying hunger. The monster launches into a brutal slide tackle, forcing the newcomer to desperately dive out of the way. He looks back completely dumbfounded, realizing these trash-tier zombies actually know how to use coordinated ambush tactics. Panic sets in, as he curses his luck, wondering if his journey in this new world ends today. Just as hope fades, he spots a faint trail of cooking smoke rising from a distant ruined outpost. A surge of adrenaline hits him, knowing that if he can just reach that human settlement, he survives. But the universe has other plans, and his sneaker violently snags on a stray piece of rubble. Tears of pure despair stream down his face as gravity takes over and his grand escape completely collapses. He tumbles through the air in a dizzying spin, screaming as his desperate sprint ends in disaster. Our boy crashes hard into the unforgiving dirt, the brutal impact knocking the wind right out of him. A scarred, bald mutant instantly seizes the opening, roaring with a horrifying hunger as it moves in. Tears streaming down his face, he curses his miserable luck and swears off random isekai adventures forever. But before the monster can strike, a massive energy round blasts out from a nearby ruined building. The glowing projectile cleanly pierces the mutant's skull, instantly neutralizing the threat right before his terrified eyes. The lifeless corpse immediately collapses directly onto him, splattering foul green blood all over the wasteland dirt. Utterly dumbfounded by the sudden rescue, he struggles under the dead weight while trying to process the chaos. Up in the ruins, an unknown savior smoothly racks the bolt of their high-tech rifle, readying another round. In a matter of seconds, a precise volley of energy shots completely annihilates the remaining trash-tier horde. Still clutching the rotting corpse, our boy sits there completely stunned that he actually survived. A sharp voice snaps him out of his daze as a heavily armed figure approaches through the dust. His savior turns out to be a fierce redhead who dryly asks why he is cuddling a zombie. Suddenly realizing he is still intimately embracing the foul creature, sheer disgust washes over his face. He violently shoves the lifeless mutant away, utterly repulsed by the lingering stench of death. Brushing off the grime, he turns back with a goofy smile to thank his lethal guardian angel. But instead of a warm welcome, she instantly shoves the massive rifle barrel right into his face. Sweating bullets, he throws his hands up in surrender and nervously introduces himself as Chen Yang. She demands to know why he is lurking near her camp, so he awkwardly claims he just got lost. Not buying his trash-tier excuse, she glares down the sights, revealing she heard him muttering about crossing worlds. Chen Yang sweats bullets, his mind racing as he realizes that telling this trigger-happy girl the truth about being from another world would just make him look completely insane. Losing her patience, the redhead cocks her massive rifle with a sharp clack, coldly warning him that his stubborn silence is a one-way ticket to the grave. But before she can pull the trigger, she suddenly pauses, her nose twitching as an incredibly mouth-watering aroma cuts through the wasteland's stench. Lowering her aim just a fraction, she gestures toward his duffel bag and aggressively demands to know what he is hiding inside. Breathing a massive sigh of relief, our boy reaches into his bag with a goofy grin, eager to defuse the deadly standoff. He proudly pulls out a bright packet of spicy strips, explaining he was just about to chow down before the mutant horde rudely interrupted his snack time. The fierce sniper is completely dumbfounded, staring at the strange red packet in sheer disbelief as she questions if that bizarre thing is actually edible. Seeing a golden opportunity to win her over, Chen Yang confidently holds out the junk food and invites his lethal guardian angel to take a bite. She glares suspiciously at the neon red snack, her wasteland survival instincts screaming that the unnatural color means it has to be highly poisonous. Yet, her stomach betrays her as a faint blush creeps across her cheeks, secretly admitting that the heavenly scent is practically irresistible after starving for 2 straight days. Throwing caution to the wind, she aggressively snatches the packet from his hand. Staring at the cheap snack, she decides that filling her starving stomach is the only priority. She takes a hesitant bite of the oily red strip, bracing herself for the worst. Instantly, her eyes sparkle with pure bliss as the cheap, savory flavor explodes in her mouth. Our boy just flashes a smug grin, knowing nobody in this desolate wasteland can resist real food. Turns out, just a few days ago, he was nothing more than a miserable corporate drone. His trash-tier life hit rock bottom when his boss ruthlessly fired him without a second thought. Stripped of his only income, he dragged his belongings out of the building in absolute defeat. Back in his depressing apartment, he sliced open a random care package of online snacks. But hidden among the junk food, he pulled out a mysterious ring that would change everything. Out of pure curiosity, he slipped the simple silver band onto his finger. Instantly, his vision glitched out as his body was pulled through a bizarre spatial distortion. When he opened his eyes, he was dumbfounded to find himself sitting in a ruined wasteland. His blood ran cold as he spotted a massive, mutated rat gnawing on human remains. Panic set in as our boy realized he was completely defenseless against the nightmarish beast. The monstrous rodent locked its glowing red eyes on him and let out a vicious screech. Terrified out of his mind, he screamed for the beast to back off as a blinding portal engulfed him. With a heavy thud, he crashed right back into his depressing apartment, completely bewildered. He frantically looked around the quiet room, trying to process the absolute insanity he just survived. Staring at the band, he finally realized this trash-tier ring was actually a two-way interdimensional portal. Drawing on his vast knowledge of webcomics, our boy starts piecing together the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme. He realizes that in a ruined apocalypse, basic junk food is practically worth its weight in solid gold. Stepping back through the dimensional rift, he prepares to exploit this massive loophole between the two worlds. His mind races with wild fantasies of swimming in endless wealth and living like an absolute king. Back in the wasteland, he finds the fierce sniper happily munching away on the snacks he left behind. She looks down at the empty wrapper in sheer panic, realizing she devoured his entire stash. Blushing with embarrassment, she stammers an apology, but Chen Yang just laughs it off like it is nothing. Playing it cool, he completely bluffs, claiming he represents a massive organization looking to trade food for supplies. Dumbfounded by the idea of a group with unlimited rations, the sniper stares at him in pure disbelief. Desperate for a steady meal, she eagerly offers up her local expertise and begs him for a job. She eagerly pitches her services as a local guide, asking for just 15 packs of spicy snacks a month. Our boy rubs his chin, realizing this is a steal, but he still needs to vet his new bodyguard. Playing the role of a strict boss, he asks for her name, which she proudly reveals as Li Lu. When he jokingly asks for her gender, the sniper just glares at him, utterly dumbfounded by the stupid question. He then presses for her age, prompting her to hesitantly admit she is only 19 years old. Staring at her ridiculous curves, Chen Yang loses his cool, shouting she is way too well fed for the apocalypse. Realizing he just broke character, he awkwardly clears his throat to hide his embarrassment and regain his corporate composure. Patting her shoulder, he officially welcomes her to the team, agreeing to her absurdly cheap junk food salary. Li Lu practically glows with excitement, clenching her fists as she thanks her new boss for the steady meals. But Chen Yang immediately shifts the mood, casually asking why the deadly sniper never just killed him for his stash. Li Lu proudly declares she is smart enough to choose a lifetime supply over a single meal. Eager to secure her spicy strips, the sniper happily takes the lead to show our boy her camp. However, as they arrive at the settlement, the sprawling ruins look absolutely desolate. Chen Yang stares in disbelief, realizing this so-called camp is actually a trash-tier slum. Still, he quickly brushes off his disappointment, figuring he can at least scavenge for some valuable loot here. As they stroll through the dusty streets, the gaunt locals immediately lock their hollow eyes onto the newcomer. Every survivor they pass glares with intense suspicion, clearly unused to seeing clean outsiders in their gritty district. Noticing his tension, Li Lu gently reassures him that the wastelanders are just naturally wary of fresh faces. She finally stops in front of a rundown shack, casually inviting her new boss inside to rest up. Instantly forgetting the grim surroundings, Chen Yang smirks, eagerly looking forward to checking out a pretty girl's bedroom. The heavy metal door creaks open, revealing what our boy hopes is a cozy sanctuary. Instead, he is greeted by a trash-tier hovel, with peeling walls and a sad, bare mattress. Utterly dumbfounded, his fantasies shatter instantly as he realizes her lifestyle is painfully simple. Completely unfazed by the mess, the sniper casually offers him a seat on her makeshift bed. She cheerfully pours him a cup of water, warning him not to underestimate this gritty little district. Handing over the mug, she proudly claims that even a rundown settlement like this has everything necessary. Leaning in close, she promises to track down absolutely anything he wants as long as he pays in food. Smirking at the golden opportunity, our boy casually requests a stockpile of gold and silver. The request catches her completely off guard, and she blankly asks why he would want such useless trash. His brain short-circuits, realizing the very garbage of this wasteland is worth an absolute fortune back in his reality. She explains that while those shiny metals used to mean something before the apocalypse, they are completely worthless now. In this gritty wasteland, you can't exactly eat gold, making food and weapons the only real currency. Playing it cool, our boy claims this first trade is just about building mutual trust for the future. To seal the deal, he slowly unzips his heavy duffel bag right in front of her, A treasure trove of trash-tier junk food and canned drinks spills out, looking like an absolute feast. The sniper instantly loses her mind, her eyes sparkling as she drools over the legendary stash. Smirking at her reaction, he promises her a massive 10% cut if she pulls this off. Completely overwhelmed by his generosity, she gently touches the bag as if it holds sacred relics. Still, she genuinely warns him that trading precious calories for useless metal is a terrible, massive loss. Brushing off her concerns, he confidently leaves the mission in her hands and promises to wait right there. Fired up by his absolute faith in her, the sniper pumps her fist and swears she won't let him down. She quickly grabs her trusty rifle, ready to hit the wasteland market and make the trade of a lifetime. Heading out the heavy metal doors, she glances back and promises our boy she will return as soon as possible. Once she leaves, his confident facade shatters, nervously praying the deal works since those snacks cost his literal last dime. With zero cell service in this gritty hideout, he flops onto the rusty bed, completely bored out of his mind. Staring blankly at the ceiling, his eyes suddenly catch a glimpse of some old, tattered newspapers plastered against the wall. Curious about this trash-tier world's history, he sits up and leans in to inspect the faded, apocalyptic headlines. Skimming the text, he is dumbfounded to realize he has traveled over 200 years into the future. A chilling realization washes over him as he reads about a great cataclysm where nuclear hellfire completely scorched the earth. Worse yet, the fallout triggered massive genetic pollution, twisting the surviving humans into the horrific mutants roaming the wasteland today. He realizes these horrific, mindless mutants are now just roaming everywhere right outside the camp walls. An hour passes as he scours the scattered newspapers, confirming he is on his home planet 2 centuries later. The grim history reveals that the so-called Great Cataclysm was actually a devastating global nuclear war. Tens of thousands of warheads rained down, instantly wiping out half of the planet's entire population. The resulting radioactive fallout completely destroyed the global ecosystem, transforming the world into this desolate wasteland. Our boy is absolutely dumbfounded. Finally understanding his magic ring didn't teleport him across space, but through time. Suddenly, the heavy metal door creaks open, snapping him right out of his deep existential crisis. Lilu strides back in with a massive grin, hauling a heavy duffel bag over her shoulder. She drops the massive bag onto the floor with a heavy thud, clearly packed to the brim. She casually explains that since gold and silver are completely useless trash here, she grabbed all she could find. Our boy eagerly unzips the heavy bag, his heart pounding in his chest. A blinding yank spills out as dozens of solid gold bars are finally revealed. His eyes practically bulge out of his skull, absolutely mesmerized by the shiny treasure. He lovingly hugs a solid brick, realizing this wasteland is his ultimate ticket to unimaginable wealth. But his broker interrupts his greedy daydream, casually mentioning she traded some of his leftover food. She pulls out a glowing blue vial, revealing it as a highly purified Tier 1 enhancement potion. It might be the lowest grade available, but it is completely safe for direct injection. She bluntly points out that his current physical state is completely trash tier for this brutal world. With this upgrade, he would easily be able to snap mutant necks without breaking a sweat. Tossing him the vial, she warns him that relying on dumb luck will not keep him alive forever. He brushes off her concern, smoothly bluffing that his mysterious organization guarantees completely safe travels. Zipping up his duffel bag full of newly acquired wasteland gold, he prepares to leave. Thrilled with how perfectly their first transaction went, our boy decides it is time to head back. Slinging the heavy bag over his shoulder, he promises to return tomorrow to officially settle her salary. With a casual goodbye, he confidently strides out of the safe house and into the harsh sunlight. Watching his retreating back, she cannot help but wonder how he safely navigates this brutal world alone. Tearing open a fresh packet of spicy strips, she shrugs off her suspicions since everyone harbors secrets anyway. Taking a bite of the savory junk food, absolute bliss washes over her usually hardened wasteland demeanor. As long as he keeps supplying these god-tier snacks, she honestly could not care less about his origins. Meanwhile, he wanders deep into the desolate ruins, searching for an isolated spot to safely teleport home. Finding a quiet corner, our boy activates his ring, tearing a glowing rift straight through space. In a flash of digital light, he lands safely back in the comfort of his modern apartment. His heart pounds as he unzips the heavy duffel bag, praying the wasteland treasures made the trip. Seeing the blinding gleam of solid gold, a wave of hysterical laughter escapes his lips. Holding a heavy brick of it in the air, he realizes this insane apocalyptic adventure was not just a dream. He smirks, knowing that once he hits the local pawn shops, he is going to be absolutely loaded. Our boy instantly pictures his new trash-to-treasure lifestyle, lounging in cash and climbing straight to the peak of society. But reality quickly sets in. and he realizes he has to cash it out slowly to avoid unwanted attention. Getting down on the floor, he lifts his mattress to secure his newfound fortune. He shoves the gold and that mysterious enhancement potion underneath, knowing nobody can ever discover his interdimensional secret. Wiping the sweat from his brow, our boy takes a moment to catch his breath after securing the bag, but his eyes keep drifting back to that glowing blue vial he brought back from the wasteland. Picking it up, he debates whether or not he should actually risk taking the mysterious enhancement potion. He remembers his sniper's harsh warning that his current physical stats are basically trash tier in the apocalypse. Clenching his fist, he realizes that if he wants to keep surviving that hellscape, he needs a serious upgrade. The only problem is that this futuristic tech didn't exactly come with a user manual, leaving him totally dumbfounded. Tired of overthinking it, he throws caution to the wind and jams the device straight into his forearm. With a sharp hiss, glowing blue energy instantly surges through his veins like liquid lightning. The strange serum rapidly drains from the vial, pumping pure apocalyptic power directly into his bloodstream. Pulling the empty injector away, he sits back and braces himself to see what kind of monster he just became. At first, our boy just stares at his hand, completely dumbfounded since he doesn't feel any different. But suddenly, his heart starts hammering against his ribs with the force of a jackhammer. A terrifying surge of raw power courses through his veins, causing him to accidentally crush the glass injector. The apocalyptic serum violently kicks in, engulfing his body in a blinding aura of chaotic energy. Unable to handle the sheer force, he collapses to his knees and violently slams the floor. Cold sweat drips down his face as he realizes this upgrade comes with an agonizing price. He writhes on the ground in pure torment, feeling like every muscle fiber is being brutally ripped apart. A massive vortex of crimson energy swallows him whole as the futuristic tech forcefully rewrites his DNA. Thrashing against the concrete, he lets out a guttural scream as the pain pushes his absolute limits. The explosive mutation finally peaks, shredding his clothes to reveal a newly forged, battle-ready physique. Gasping for air, our boy grips the edge of his desk as the agonizing burning finally starts to fade. He leans heavily against a chair, drenched in cold sweat, but realizing he actually survived the brutal mutation process. Catching his breath, he stares at his trembling hands and wonders if the hellish ordeal is finally over. Stepping in front of the mirror, he is completely dumbfounded by the absolute unit staring back at him. Hitting the showers, he flexes his newly forged physique, hyping himself up that his gains could rival a legendary bodybuilder. He is beyond thrilled that the wasteland tech didn't give him some freakish side effect like a pointy, bald head. Realizing this was just a trash-tier serum, he wonders if a high-tier dose would turn him into an unstoppable god. His hype session is suddenly cut short when a familiar voice calls out from the hallway, asking him to open up. Snapping back to reality, he quickly heads over and unlocks the front door to let his visitor inside. Turns out it is his flatmate, a struggling D-list actress named Shu Ya, apologizing for forgetting her keys again. He welcomes her inside with a warm smile, brushing off her apologies since they are roommates after all. Stepping through the doorway, Shu Ya suddenly freezes as a deep blush creeps across her cheeks. Her eyes light up with mischievous delight, clearly impressed by our boy's unexpected glow-up. She playfully grabs his arm, teasingly asking what exactly happened to make him look like a Greek god. Poking his rock-hard chest, she giggles and admits she never realized he was hiding such a stacked physique. Leaning in close, she flirtatiously wonders if he stripped down just to comfort her after a failed audition. Completely flustered by her bold teasing, his face turns beet red as he frantically denies her wild theory. Realizing he is still half naked, he completely panics and sprints down the hallway in a blur of embarrassment. Catching his breath behind a closed door, he groans internally, convinced his flatmate now thinks he is a total pervert. Shaking off the awkwardness, he decides to focus on the real priority and get his wasteland gold sold immediately. Stepping out into the bright morning sun, our boy hits the city streets with a clear mission. With his bag of wasteland gold slung over his shoulder, he marvels at how completely weightless it feels. Suddenly, his eyes narrow as a strange, sharp sensation pulses through his newly upgraded nervous system. His focus instantly sharpens down the bustling street, cutting through the urban clutter like a high-powered scope. He is absolutely dumbfounded to realize he can perfectly read a tiny promotional sign from hundreds of meters away. The upgrades do not stop there, as a faint rustling sound suddenly catches his hypersensitive ears. From blocks away, he effortlessly eavesdrops on two older women gossiping about some juicy neighborhood cheating scandal. Strolling past chirping birds, he realizes his hearing has been dialed up to an absolute superhuman level. Clenching his fist with a confident smirk, he notes that the wasteland potion thoroughly evolved every physical stat. Knowing that the post-apocalyptic future holds technology centuries ahead of his time, he vows to keep digging for treasure. Knowing corporate chains ask too many questions about undocumented gold, our boy scopes out a private jewelry shop. Striding toward the entrance, he flashes a confident smirk, completely ready to cash in his wasteland haul. Stepping into the lavish lobby, he is immediately greeted by a sharply dressed manager. Wasting no time, he leans against the counter and demands to speak directly with her boss about a major deal. The manager just gives him a polite corporate smile, insisting she is more than capable of handling his request. Calling her bluff, he slams his heavy duffel bag down onto the glass display with a heavy thud. Unzipping the bag to reveal massive gold bars, he casually notes that this transaction is way above her pay grade. Staring at the blinding pile of wealth, the manager is left absolutely dumbfounded and sweating bullets. Enjoying her priceless reaction, he flashes a cocky grin and playfully asks if there is a problem. Completely flustered and realizing he is a VIP, she frantically gestures for him to follow her to the back rooms. She leads him straight to the private VIP meeting room. Inside, he is greeted by the shop owner, a hulking man dripping in expensive jewelry. Our boy shakes his hand, confidently introducing himself while keeping his real motives hidden. The boss politely offers him a seat, eager to see what kind of business this kid brings. Wasting zero time, Chen slams massive gold bars onto the table with a heavy thud. The owner stares at the blinding pile of wealth, double-checking if he seriously wants to liquidate it. Flashing a cocky grin, our boy confirms the deal, knowing this wasteland trash will make him rich. Intrigued, the boss picks up a heavy bar, feeling the sheer density of the precious metal. Since the haul is so massive, he politely asks for permission to run a thorough purity test. Kicking back with a hot cup of tea, Chen casually tells him to knock himself out. Chen Yang smiles, knowing nobody in the apocalyptic wasteland would ever bother faking completely useless precious metals. The appraiser fires up his scanner, and it immediately beeps with a flawless 99% purity reading. He quickly checks the other bars, the machine beeping rapidly as it confirms the exact same impossible quality. Sweat drips down Lin Tao's face, completely dumbfounded that he is holding pure 24-karat gold. Leaning back with a smug grin, our boy casually asks the stunned boss for his final verdict. Recovering his composure, the boss offers a premium recycling rate of 400 yuan per gram. The teacup cracks in Chen's grip, as his enhanced mind instantly crunches the massive numbers. Since each bar weighs a kilogram, he realizes this wasteland trash is worth a staggering 1.2 million. A maniacal grin spreads across his face as he imagines swimming in an ocean of cold, hard cash. But his dreams shatter when Lin Tao casually asks for official purchase receipts to finalize the massive payout. Chen Yang smoothly brushes off the request, assuring the boss that his stash is completely clean. But the seasoned appraiser isn't buying it, arguing that absorbing such an undocumented haul carries serious risks. Annoyed by the stalling, our boy's grip tightens until his teacup shatters with a sharp crack. Standing up to assert dominance, he declares that he hates wasting time on pointless haggling. He demands a final bottom-line price right then and there, making it clear he is ready to walk. Slamming a heavy gold bar onto the table, he coldly suggests they just call it a day otherwise. Sweating under the intense pressure, the boss caves and offers a flat 840,000. A satisfying ding chimes from his phone as the massive fortune instantly hits his bank account. With his pockets finally lined, our boy slides the gold over and smugly seals the deal. The exhausted boss shakes his hand, begging for future deals, though Chen just gives a non-committal smirk. Walking out of the shop, he marvels at how just 3 measly bars netted him over 800 grand. Patting his heavy backpack, he realizes he'll be swimming in cash if he unloads the rest of his stash. Unable to contain his excitement, our boy leaps into the air, celebrating his escape from being dead broke. Later, he heads back to his modest apartment complex, ready to share his newfound wealth. Inside, his flatmate Dandan is in a frantic rush, desperately searching for her phone with toast in her mouth. Snatching her device off the coffee table, she scrambles toward the exit like her life depends on it. She bursts out the front door, nearly colliding with Chen, who is just strolling in. Amused by her chaotic energy, he chuckles and asks what has her rushing out in such a mad dash. Their other roommate Shuya sighs, explaining that Dandan's tyrannical boss just dragged her back in for sudden overtime. Shrugging, Chen playfully laments the bad timing, since he just struck it rich and wanted to treat them both. Dandan shouts back that Shuya better eat her share of the feast, prompting a reassuring thumbs up from Chen. Before leaving, she playfully warns our boy not to try any funny business with her friend. With a final cheerful wave, the overworked girl heads off to face her corporate nightmare. Now alone, Shuya turns with a teasing smile and asks where the big spender is taking her. Flashing a confident grin, he casually suggests they hit up the Regal Grand Hotel for dinner. Dumbfounded, she asks if he is joking about a 5-star joint, but he is completely deadpan. Telling her to get ready for tonight, he he heads off to handle some highly lucrative business. Back in the privacy of his room, he immediately drops down to retrieve his hidden stash. Sitting on the floor, he knows he needs to cash out these heavy gold bars today. Wasting no time, he heads into the bustling city to turn his junk into cold cash. He quickly strikes a deal with the buyer, shaking hands over his heavy stack of pure gold. The senior manager even steps in personally to thank him, treating our boy like absolute royalty. Waving goodbye to the dumbfounded staff, he struts out of the shop, feeling like an absolute king. Checking his phone, his eyes nearly bulge out of his skull when he sees a 4 million balance. Throwing his arms up in pure bliss, he mentally praises the apocalyptic wasteland for making him filthy rich. His celebration is cut short when his phone starts buzzing with a call from his buddy Guangji. Answering with a cocky grin, he casually asks his friend if he missed him already. Meanwhile, Guangzi is busy clicking away at his computer, looking completely dead serious about something. He scolds Chen for hiding his recent firing and immediately offers up his own savings to cover rent. Standing frozen in the middle of the street, our newly minted millionaire is left completely speechless by the gesture. Recovering from the shock, our boy laughs it off and assures his buddy he is absolutely loaded now. But his cocky grin vanishes when he realizes someone must have leaked the news of his recent firing. Back at his apartment, Guangzi awkwardly rubs his neck and admits the truth about his secret informant. Pausing his digital design work, the loyal friend finally spills the beans on who actually reached out. Turns out, Chen's ex-girlfriend had secretly contacted him, begging him to look after our newly minted millionaire. Hearing her name brings up a ghost from his past, leaving him completely dumbfounded by her sudden concern. Leaning back in his chair, Guangxi playfully pries into their history, wondering why they ever called it quits. Chen sighs, admitting her mother demanded a wealthy son-in-law who could afford a luxury house in the city. Hearing about that trash-tier materialistic demand makes his buddy swear off the dating market entirely. Still, Chen narrows his eyes, wondering how his ex even knew about his downfall since they cut ties. Guangxi drops the bombshell that a rich brat named Jiang Jinglong, who always coveted his girl, leaked the news. Turns out, that wealthy scumbag actually bought shares in Chen's old company just to get him fired. Hearing this petty sabotage makes our boy's blood boil, as a fiery aura of pure rage erupts around him. Sensing his buddy's explosive anger through the phone, Guangxi frantically begs him not to do anything reckless. Chen immediately dials back his intense aura, scoffing at the idea that he would ever act like a hothead. Relieved that his friend is keeping a level head, Guangxi smiles and finally wraps up the tense call. Our newly minted millionaire cheerfully says his goodbyes, playing the part of a perfectly calm and collected guy. But the second the call ends, his face twists into pure fury as he curses that shameless corporate snake. Before he can plot his revenge, he suddenly remembers he has a crucial hotel meeting to attend. Pushing the grudge aside for now, he sprints down the sunset-lit streets to handle his real business. Arriving at the luxurious hotel, our boy catches his breath and waits outside the grand entrance. He glances around impatiently, wondering where his flatmate Xu Ya could possibly be since she promised to meet him. Suddenly, tires screech as a sleek black luxury car pulls up right in front of him. A pair of elegant legs steps out of the vehicle as a familiar voice calls out his name. It turns out to be Xu Ya, looking absolutely stunning as she sweetly apologizes for keeping him waiting. Her breathtaking beauty instantly turns heads, leaving random guys drooling and wondering if she is some famous celebrity. She casually walks up to him, amused to find our boy completely frozen and staring off into space. Blushing hard, he awkwardly admits that despite living together for months, he never realized she was this gorgeous. She just flashes a confident smile, teasingly asking if she dressed well enough for his fancy dinner date. Without warning, she links her arm through his, leaving him completely flustered as she drags him inside. She laughs off his awkwardness, reminding him that dressing up is just basic social etiquette. A waiter soon approaches their table with menus, offering them a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Xu Ya flips through the options, expecting a nice but reasonably priced meal. Her eyes widen in absolute shock when she realizes the dishes cost an absolute fortune. Before she can stop him, our boy casually orders 3 signature dishes and 2 premium treasure crabs. Dumbfounded, she leans over the table and scolds him for blowing $1,000 on seafood alone. Blushing but confident, he just laughs and assures her that his wallet is more than full enough. Crossing her arms, she refuses to believe him, pointing out his recent diet of cheap daily takeout. Needing a quick excuse, he smoothly lies about his family receiving a massive property demolition payout. Instantly dropping her guilt, she playfully locks him in a chokehold, ready to feast on his dime. Xu Ya suggests grabbing another bite later, clearly enjoying their lavish night out. Our boy just chuckles and pats his stomach, admitting he is completely stuffed. Their perfect evening shatters when a familiar, arrogant voice suddenly calls out his name. Turning around, Chen Yang is dumbfounded to see the very man who ruined his career. His expression darkens as he sarcastically notes what a massive coincidence this trash-tier encounter is. Jiang Jinglong immediately starts running his mouth, mocking our boy for daring to enter a five-star establishment. Unfazed, Chen Yang shoots back, asking if this corporate snake plans to throw him out of here too. The blonde bastard just smirks, gloating about how easily he got him fired from the company. Sensing the heavy tension, Xu Ya gently touches his arm and asks if he knows this creep. Ignoring Chen Yang entirely, Jiang Jinglong licks his lips like a predator eyeing his next prize. The blonde bastard internally plots to expose our boy as a broke loser and steal his girl. Turning his attention to the silver-haired beauty, he warns her not to be fooled by appearances. He smugly claims to know his former classmate inside out, branding him a jobless, penniless fraud. Gesturing to the lavish surroundings, the corporate snake insists Chen Yang is blowing his last dime. He spins a pathetic narrative, warning that this supposed scammer will drain her of love and money. Disgusted by the sheer hypocrisy, our boy glares daggers and asks if everyone is as trash tier as him. Unfazed by the smear campaign, Xu Ya flashes a sharp smile and questions his supposedly kind warning. Puffing out his chest, the arrogant CEO proudly declares himself a righteous savior of deceived beauties. Striking a ridiculous pose with a rose, he slides over his premium business card with a sleazy job offer. But Xu Ya just swats the card away with a sharp smack, coldly rejecting the creep on the spot. Desperate to save face, the sleazy CEO tries sweetening the deal with promises of massive paychecks, but Xu Ya shuts him down completely, proudly declaring herself as Chen Yang's fiercely loyal girlfriend. She ruthlessly mocks his leadership, predicting his entire company will inevitably crash and burn under his arrogance. Leaning in close, she whispers that she is just flexing her acting skills, earning a grinning thumbs up. Calling our boy her darling, she links arms with him and struts off, leaving the trash behind. Left in the dust, the humiliated executive practically bursts into flames of pure, unadulterated rage and jealousy. He curses his former classmate as a useless loser, completely unaware that his actual date is approaching. Chen Yang's gold-digging ex-girlfriend finally steps out, looking utterly exhausted and demanding to be taken home. Trying to salvage his bruised ego, he suggests hitting a bar, but she coldly shoots him down. Adding insult to injury, she walks away and promises to split the bill, leaving him absolutely dumbfounded. Desperate to save face, the blonde executive chases after his ex, begging her to stay. But she just ignores him completely, slamming the car door shut without a second glance. Left eating her exhaust, he screams her name into the night sky like a total loser. Boiling with rage, he vows to make her pay since she still works under his corporate thumb. Meanwhile, our boy and his fake date take a peaceful stroll, glad to be rid of that trash. Chen Yang admits that running into his arrogant former classmate actually did him a massive favor. Curious, the silver-haired beauty looks over, wondering what kind of crazy idea just popped into his head. He explains that with his newfound massive wealth, he has been struggling to pick the perfect investment. Clenching his fist with absolute resolve, he finally knows exactly how to use his wasteland gold. He boldly declares he will build his own gaming empire and crush that blonde punk into dust. Hearing this bold declaration, his fake girlfriend immediately warns him that rushing into a startup is incredibly risky. Our boy just flashes a confident smirk, telling her to sit back and enjoy the show. Later that night, he heads back to his quiet apartment complex to brainstorm his next massive move. While washing off the day's grime, he reflects on his crazy routine of trading junk for wasteland gold. He realizes that suddenly flashing massive amounts of cash is going to draw some serious, unwanted investigations. Stepping out of the shower, he concludes a massive company is the perfect cover to legitimize his wealth. Drying off his newly mutated shredded physique, he starts piecing together the ultimate business strategy. Sitting down at his computer, he remembers that the apocalyptic world holds something far more valuable than raw gold. Since the cataclysm happened only a decade ago, their wildly advanced technology is still just sitting in the ruins. He realizes that with enough food, he can easily recruit desperate, top-tier scientists to build his new empire. He figures a measly 15 packs of spicy strips a month is enough to hire these desperate geniuses. With technology 2 centuries ahead of his time, he knows dominating the gaming market will be an absolute breeze. The very next morning, he immediately gets to work on setting up his brand new corporate front. Sitting at his desk, he gets confirmation over the phone that his company registration has been officially submitted. Thanking the agency for their help, our boy hangs up with a deeply satisfied smirk. With the legal paperwork handled by the pros, he shifts his focus to the real challenge of hiring staff. Knowing he needs capital to recruit wasteland talent, he decides to stock up on supplies for another dimensional jump. Hitting the local supermarket, he realizes he needs to bring actual food instead of just cheap junk snacks. Checking a bag of chips, he notes the modern production date and realizes that could expose his time-traveling secret. The cashier watches dumbfounded as his cart rumbles by, completely clearing the shelves for his upcoming wasteland expedition. Moving to the meat counter, a friendly clerk asks our boy what he wants to buy. He casually orders 25 kilos of raw pork without even batting an eye. The poor woman is completely dumbfounded, her jaw dropping at the sheer absurdity of his request. Half an hour later, he finishes up his shopping spree with a deeply satisfied smirk. He wheels out a massive cart overflowing with enough fresh produce to feed a small army. Back at his apartment, he hauls towering stacks of heavy cardboard boxes through his front door. He drops the massive load onto the floor with a heavy thud, feeling the physical strain. Wiping his brow, he realizes that manually transporting supplies for hundreds of wastelanders is completely unsustainable. Suddenly, the mysterious ring on his finger emits a sharp hum and begins to glow brightly. To his absolute shock, the ring's light envelops the boxes, instantly absorbing them into a spatial void. He stumbles back in absolute shock, wondering where the hell his massive haul just vanished to. Staring at the glowing band on his finger, a wild theory suddenly crosses his mind. He closes his eyes, focusing his mind to connect with the mysterious artifact. Deep within the ring's void, he perfectly senses his towering stack of supplies floating in a spatial grid. Our boy pumps his fists in pure excitement, realizing his crazy hunch was dead on. Eager to test its limits, he barks out a mental command to store his belongings. The ring flares to life again, instantly sweeping up everything in its path with a brilliant flash. With another quick thought, he easily retrieves a heavy box right back onto his desk. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he realizes this artifact is a massive dimensional storage cheat. Absolutely thrilled by his newly discovered power, he happily plants a giant kiss right on his lucky ring. Praising the artifact for solving his transport issues, our boy confidently declares, "It is time to return to the apocalypse." A brilliant flash of distorted light engulfs the room as he activates the interdimensional jump. In the blink of an eye, he materializes right back in the desolate ruins of the wasteland. With a simple flick of his wrist, a massive crate of supplies drops into the dust with a heavy thud. But he isn't stupid, deciding he needs to carry the goods by hand to keep his spatial cheat hidden. Meeting up with Li Lu, the sniper eagerly tears open a vacuum-sealed spicy sausage he brought her. The rich, savory oil from the modern junk food completely coats her fingertips. She happily licks the spicy sauce right off her skin, completely mesmerized by the heavenly taste. Clasping her hands together, she practically begs him for just one more pack of the addictive treat. However, she quickly snaps back to reality, lecturing herself that non-perishable food is far too precious to waste. Staring at the remaining spicy strips, the sniper reminds herself that properly sealed food is an absolute luxury here. She figures that with strict rationing, just one of these packs could keep her breathing for over a week. But panic suddenly sets in as she realizes she traded such a priceless commodity for absolute trash-tier gold. Her mind races with horrific visions of our boy getting tortured by rival factions for recklessly flashing his food. Feeling her soul practically leave her body, she accepts that her dream of endless snacks is officially dead. But just as she gives up hope, the door kicks open, and Chen Yang casually strolls back in. He is completely buried behind a massive stack of heavy cardboard boxes, desperately asking her to lend a hand. Completely dumbfounded, the sniper instantly launches herself at him like a heat-seeking missile while praising her boss. The heavy boxes hit the floor with a loud crash, bursting open to reveal a mountain of fresh vegetables. Pinning him to the dirt, she excitedly cheers that he actually came back, completely overwhelmed by the unbelievable haul. Tears stream down her face as she admits she genuinely thought he had abandoned her. Still pinning him to the dirt, she cries over his reckless trade while he just smiles back. She frantically explains that useless gold is worthless compared to food, fearing his bosses will execute him. But our boy just gently pats her head, reassuring her that his rank in the organization is untouchable. He casually adds that the gold was exactly what he needed, making the trade a massive win. Snapping back to reality, he urgently tells the dumbfounded sniper to help gather the spilled loot. Picking up a massive, pristine cabbage, she stares at it like she just found a holy relic. Her mind completely shatters as she realizes she is holding actual, fresh vegetables in her hands. She practically screams in absolute disbelief, realizing his mysterious faction actually possesses the miracle of agriculture. Meanwhile, our boy just scratches his head, utterly confused why a basic cabbage is causing a meltdown. She tearfully explains that the cataclysm permanently poisoned the soil, making farming absolutely impossible. Seeing her break down, our boy casually offers to just give her the entire stash. Her eyes widen in pure shock, completely unable to process such an absurdly generous gift. Clutching the pristine vegetable to her chest, she is completely overwhelmed by the gesture, but suddenly, she drops to her knees and tries to hand it back, claiming it is far too valuable. She insists she will only take what she earns, praising him for being such a genuinely good person. Hearing that, Chen Yang just freezes, utterly dumbfounded that he just got hit with the classic good guy card. Shaking it off, he starts unpacking the rest of the crates, deciding to pay her salary in actual groceries. He even pulls out a massive slab of fresh meat, telling the sniper she can request whatever she needs. But with a sly smirk, he reminds her that top-tier rewards demand absolute loyalty and top-tier service. Blushing furiously, the sniper eagerly promises to do absolutely whatever it takes to satisfy his every demand. Our boy quickly clarifies their dynamic, officially dubbing her his personal secretary whose main job is providing intel. Poking her fingers together in embarrassment, she meekly accepts her new corporate role in this ruined wasteland. Getting down to business, he stacks up the fresh crates and reveals his master plan to recruit more manpower. Surprised by the sudden expansion, she immediately asks what kind of survivors he is actually looking to hire. He makes it crystal clear that he only wants fiercely loyal recruits equipped with genuinely useful special abilities. Processing his strict requirements, she suggests hitting up Grey Rat Town, a massive hub packed with 10,000 survivors. Hearing that name again, he asks how that main hub connects to the rundown district they are currently in. Eager to prove her worth as a secretary, she flashes a confident smile and breaks down the local geography. She explains that the main town sits right in the center, surrounded by 12 alphabetical satellite settlements like theirs. Lilu adds that these outer camps completely rely on the main hub to trade for scarce survival supplies. Getting straight to his real agenda, our boy asks if he can find any game developers in that hub. Hearing the word computer, his new secretary just stares at him completely dumbfounded. She projects a hologram of a clunky desktop, asking why her boss wants such an ancient relic. Sweating bullets, he awkwardly admits it might be outdated, and wonders if programmers are actually extinct here. She explains that long before the apocalypse, humanity had already upgraded to advanced Intel brain technology. Suddenly, she remembers a pre-cataclysm technical director living right in their own camp who knows Intel brains. Without wasting another second, she grabs his hand and drags him out to meet this local tech guru. Flailing like a ragdoll at her mutant-tier speed, he screams that his legs work perfectly fine. Catching his breath outside in the dusty streets, he casually asks why nobody bothers locking doors here. Lilu casually explains that everyone is dirt poor anyway, so there is literally nothing worth stealing. She adds that survival demands absolute unity, and any thief gets permanently exiled from all settlements. They finally arrive at a rundown, eerily quiet building that looks completely abandoned. Stepping inside, his secretary confidently announces that the local tech genius is right here. Suddenly, a chilling silhouette of a man gleefully chopping meat with an axe appears behind a curtain. The sickening sound of a heavy blade slicing through flesh echoes through the dark room. Disgusted by the gruesome scene, Lilu calls out to Uncle Wei, saying she needs a favor. The so-called scientist pulls back the curtain with a bloody axe, boasting about catching a fat one. With a manic gleam in his eye, the old man promises to share the hind legs once he finishes. While Lilu cheerfully accepts the horrifying offer, our boy stands there completely terrified of these wastelanders. Our boy realizes with absolute disgust that the prized catch is actually a massive, dead gray rat. Trying to keep his lunch down, he asks if this monstrosity is just another mutated creature. His secretary cheerfully confirms that these giant rodents are actually the main source of meat around here. Getting down to business, she introduces her boss to the old man, promising a very generous payout. The eccentric scientist scoffs at the kid, highly doubting a youngster could offer anything of real value. Ignoring the disrespect, our boy steps up and states he needs top-tier technical talent for a project. He confidently drops his offer, promising a massive monthly salary of pure rice, flour, and fresh meat. Hearing those legendary luxury items, the old man's eyes nearly pop out of his skull in pure shock. Smirking at the reaction, the wealthy boss even offers to pay an advance salary just to prove it. Completely dumbfounded, the scientist looks to the sniper for confirmation, unable to believe his trash-tier luck just changed. The sniper quickly chimes in, assuring the old man that our boy can hand over the fresh meat immediately. Suddenly, ecstatic, the eccentric scientist grabs his hands, bragging that he's the absolute best Intel brain expert around. But our wealthy boss just awkwardly waves him off, clarifying that his project has nothing to do with Intel brains. Instead, he casually asks the duo if they know anything about ancient relics called personal computers. He explains that he specifically needs a top-tier mind who completely understands this primitive, outdated technology. Hearing that ancient term, the old man freezes up, completely baffled by such a bizarre request. He scoffs that those ancient machines are clunky, completely worthless junk with terrible user interfaces. Losing his patience, our boy cuts him off, demanding a straight answer on whether he can handle the tech. Sweating bullets, the desperate scientist realizes he absolutely cannot let a treasure trove of real food slip away. Swallowing his pride, the old man eagerly leans in and asks exactly what kind of ancient tech he needs. Chen Yang keeps it simple, telling them he just needs someone to write basic software to his exact specifications. The old man is stunned, double-checking if he has to handcraft microscopic chips, which our boy immediately shoots down. Still in disbelief, the scientist asks if he needs to design some crazy super AI, getting another quick rejection. Hearing how ridiculously basic the job is, the old man bursts into a massive grin, swearing he can handle it. He proudly declares that as long as the hardware holds up, he can crush any programming task thrown his way. But his curiosity flares up, questioning what Chen Yang could possibly want with software incompatible with modern Intel brains. Our boy just flashes a knowing smile, smoothly telling the old man to keep his nose out of those details. Throwing an arm around the sweating scientist, Chen Yang casually reminds him that a perfect employee never asks questions. With the old man thoroughly intimidated, Chen Yang promises to handle the hardware and asks for his final demands. Before the scientist can even beg, our boy waves his hand, guaranteeing his new hire will never go hungry again. Uncle Wei scratches his head, pointing out that having an Intel brain would make the job much smoother. He explains he could write the complex code on advanced tech and port it to the junk computers. Taking the advice to heart, our boy waves goodbye to the old man, promising to secure the hardware. Stepping back into the ruined streets, he asks his red-haired secretary how hard it is to score one. She explains that while their district is dry, the neighboring gray rat town sells them for a hefty price. Hearing the word expensive, Chen Yang instantly panics, wondering if his massive food haul somehow wasn't enough. Seeing him sweat, she frantically clarifies that his stash could easily buy 100 of those things. Relieved that he is still filthy rich here, he grins and asks about buying enhancement serums there too. She warns that they only stock low-tier junk, while the good stuff belongs to the Doctors Association. That specific name catches his full attention, sparking a brand new plan in his mind to get even stronger. She explains that this top-tier faction holds a strict monopoly on all high-grade healing potions and serums. Seeing his clueless expression, the sniper is utterly dumbfounded that her boss doesn't know basic wasteland lore. Our boy quickly covers his tracks, awkwardly laughing that his mysterious organization is entirely self-sufficient and isolated. Brushing off the suspicion, he tasks her with heading over there to secure a massive batch of serums. He then turns to leave, mentioning he needs to head back to grab that computer for the scientist. But before stepping away, he stops in his tracks with one final, crucial piece of advice. Looking her dead in the eye, he orders her to abandon the cargo and prioritize her own life. Hearing someone actually value her life over precious wasteland resources leaves the hardened survivor completely speechless. A deep blush spreads across her face as she softly agrees, her loyalty to him cementing even further. With their plans set, the golden sunset washes over the ruined city as a new chapter unfolds. Back in his modern apartment, his empty bedroom waits in total silence. With a sudden spatial glitch, our boy materializes back home, letting out a massive sigh of relief. He laughs out loud, realizing a few bags of rice can buy top-tier tech talent over there. Eager to get moving, he grabs the handle and pushes his bedroom door open with a soft click. Stepping into the living room, he does a little victory dance, feeling absolutely on top of the world. But his celebration halts when he spots his flatmate Dandan lounging on the couch in revealing clothes. Caught completely off guard, a sudden nosebleed betrays his dumbfounded reaction to the unexpected view. Hearing his voice, she freezes in absolute terror, her eyes widening as she realizes she isn't alone. Blushing furiously, she scrambles to cover herself with a pillow and screams at him to stop staring. Panic sets in as she demands to know how he appeared, swearing his room was empty moments ago. Sweating bullets, Chen Yang awkwardly taps his head and insists he never left the apartment. Desperate to escape the tension, he promises to buy her dinner and makes a mad dash away. The front door slams shut with a loud thud, leaving his flatmate completely dumbfounded. Still hiding behind the sofa, Dandan just scoffs and mutters about how all men are absolute trash. Once outside, our boy decides to buy his new tech from his other flatmate working nearby. He strolls into a high-end electronics shop, fully prepared to drop some serious cash on upgrades, but his good mood vanishes when he spots Shuya being cornered by a sleazy customer. The creep leans in with a greasy smile, promising a massive purchase if she accepts his terms. Furious, she snaps back that they only sell hardware and absolutely refuse those trash-tier services. Shu Ya stands her ground, firmly reminding the creep that they only deal in hardware. Before things can escalate, our boy steps in with a casual wave to grab her attention. Playing the part of a clueless customer, he smoothly asks her for some assistance. Relieved, she immediately latches onto his arm, whispering how thankful she is for the rescue. Chen Yang chuckles, teasingly asking if the guy was just haggling a bit too hard. She scoffs, explaining the trash-tier customer tried buying her company over a cheap rig. Crossing her arms, she shoots him a suspicious glare, wondering if he came to mock her. He quickly clears the air, reminding her he actually needs gear for his gaming company. With a massive grin, he demands the absolute best specs available, including a top-tier graphics card. Dumbfounded by his request, she warns him that a rig like that costs a small fortune. Unfazed, Chen Yang explains he needs a machine powerful enough to test his software's extreme load limits. Nodding professionally, Shu Ya slips into the back storage room to fetch the premium hardware. Meanwhile, that sleazy creep lingers nearby, still scheming to make her his by the end of the day. The trash-tier guy sidles up to our boy, arrogantly asking what kind of pathetic budget he's working with. Ignoring the clown, Chen Yang casually points to a monstrous rig priced at over 100 grand. The creep's eyes nearly bulge out of his skull, convinced this broke-looking kid is just pulling a prank. Right on cue, Shu Ya wheels out a massive box containing the absolute pinnacle of modern computing power. She rings him up for a staggering 103,000, politely asking for his payment method. Without batting an eye, Chen Yang scans his phone, and the terminal instantly chimes with a successful transaction. The sleazebag clutches his head in absolute disbelief, his arrogant reality completely shattered by our boy's casual wealth. Chen Yang playfully winks at the sweating creep, asking if he needs a drink to calm his nerves. Utterly humiliated, the trash-tier guy sprints out of the store, screaming in absolute denial. Meanwhile, back in the apocalyptic ruins of Grey Rat Town, survival is a daily brutal grind. Lilu navigates the dusty alleys, immediately drawing the hungry gazes of some local cybernetic thugs. A mohawk-wearing punk blocks her path with a creepy grin, suggesting they have a little fun together. She coldly rejects his disgusting advance, trying to push past the scavengers without starting a bloodbath. But the thugs aren't backing down, their greedy eyes locked onto her suspiciously bulging backpack. Losing her patience, our girl shoots them a lethal glare and orders the street trash to back off. To make her point crystal clear, she rests a hand on her heavy blaster, ready to get nasty. Realizing she isn't an easy target, the gang's leader clicks his tongue in frustrated defeat. The gang leader breaks into a cold sweat, cursing his rotten luck after realizing she is heavily armed. With a dismissive scoff, our girl strides right past the paralyzed scavengers without looking back. Internally, she fights her panic, knowing even a single flinch would make these hyenas tear her apart. She quickly ducks into a dusty wasteland repair shop to get off the dangerous streets. Approaching the busy mechanics, she confidently demands to purchase a highly coveted Intel brain. The goggled shopkeeper casually notes that a basic model costs 15 kilos of mutant rat meat. Opting for the standard version, she slams her massive backpack onto the counter with a heavy thud. Checking the scale, the mechanic gives an impressed smirk as the meat easily clears the asking price. He slides a glowing hexagonal data tablet across the wooden counter to finalize the gritty transaction. Securing the precious tech in her pouch, she prepares to bring Chen Yang exactly what he requested. The greedy mechanic tries to push his luck, offering her more of his so-called wasteland treasures, but the sniper coldly turns him down, tossing her heavy rifle over her shoulder as she leaves. As she steps out, the shop's thugs whisper about tailing her to steal her remaining stash. Thankfully, the head mechanic warns his buddy to back off, knowing she's way too dangerous to provoke. She quickly navigates the dusty, ruined streets, her heavy boots thudding against the cracked pavement. Once safely out of sight, she clutches her chest, her heart pounding from the near exposure. She knows if those scavengers had seen the fresh cabbage in her bag, a total bloodbath would follow. After navigating the treacherous alleys, she finally arrives at the rundown clinic of the targeted wasteland scientist. Stepping into the shadowy room, a calm voice immediately welcomes her from the darkness. The cybernetic doctor lounges in his chair, casually telling her to browse his inventory for whatever she needs. Lilu scans the display of basic enhancement serums, completely unimpressed by the trash-tier selection. She demands the good stuff, making it clear she is only interested in top-tier upgrades. The arrogant doctor just waves her off, smugly warning her that premium goods are way out of her league. Without missing a beat, she pulls out a pristine cabbage and tells him to appraise her currency. The sight of uncorrupted greenery leaves the cynical scientist utterly dumbfounded. his jaw practically hitting the floor. Suddenly, he blurs past her in a desperate sprint, moving with terrifying speed. Caught off guard by his insane cybernetic reflexes, she realizes this guy is no ordinary doctor. Her survival instincts kick in instantly, and she whips out her heavy blaster with a sharp clack. She aims right at his back as he locks the shutter, demanding to know what he is pulling. The doctor just turns around with his hands raised, flashing a desperate smile, and swearing he means no harm. He flares up his blue mana aura, cockily pointing out her trash tier blaster cannot scratch a tier 9 enhanced. A cold sweat breaks out on her face, wondering why elite medical factions would station top-tier distributors here. Adjusting his glasses with a smug grin, he casually reminds her that the apocalypse is full of impossible surprises. Dropping the tough guy act, he eagerly reaches out and begs to inspect her leafy green treasure. She narrows her eyes in deep suspicion, hesitant to hand over the precious cargo to a shady cyborg. The moment his hands touch it, he completely loses his mind over its flawless color and 0 radiation levels. To him, this uncorrupted vegetable is practically a holy relic, a literal miracle sent down from the heavens. Slinging her heavy blaster over her shoulder, she demands a fair trade for top-tier enhancement serums. His demeanor instantly shifts to defensive, tightly clutching the cabbage while warning her not to try extorting him. Unfazed, she crosses her arms and reminds him that fresh produce is utterly impossible to grow here, making it priceless. The cyborg scientist admits he fully understands the insane scarcity of this uncorrupted vegetable. With a sly smirk, he adds that he absolutely refuses to partner up with some scheming opportunist. Turning back to the heavily armed broker, he assures her he is completely sincere about making a fair trade. To prove his point, he slams his hand down on a hidden red switch with a loud clack. The wall behind him slides open, revealing a hidden stash of top-tier wasteland tech to seal the deal. He casually presents a glowing case, offering a complete set of Tier 1 through 6 enhancement serums. Next, he slides over a rare pink healing serum, boasting it can cure any disease caused by cellular mutation. Saving the best for last, he proudly shows off a brand new set of carbon fiber bioarmor. Completely dumbfounded by the legendary loot, she blushes and drools, eagerly asking if all this treasure is for her. Her hopes are instantly shattered when he bluntly rejects the idea, sending her tumbling over in sheer disappointment. He tells her she only gets 2 serums, leaving the sniper visibly annoyed at the stingy offer. Frustrated, she points at the legendary bioarmor, demanding to know why he even bothered showing it off. With a cunning smirk, the scientist reveals he is just laying the bait for their next transaction. He slams a red stamp down on the desk with a loud smack to emphasize his terms. If she wants the top-tier gear, she is going to have to cough up way more fresh vegetables. The broker is completely dumbfounded, breaking into a nervous sweat as she wonders how he saw through her. He casually points out that her pristine cabbage is way too perfect to be some random wasteland fluke. Any faction capable of cultivating such flawless greens definitely has a massive hidden stockpile, and he wants in. Panicking, she tries to lie and claims she just happened to scavenge it from some pre-cataclysm ruins. The scientist just chuckles at her trash-tier excuse, knowing damn well ancient ruins wouldn't perfectly preserve one cabbage. He dismisses her, telling the sniper to hurry back and discuss his terms with her mysterious backers. Leaning back, he casually reminds her that fresh food is a luxury, but armor is absolute survival. Realizing she has 0 leverage here, our girl reluctantly agrees to his steep demands. She pulls down the garage shutter, warning him to keep that top-tier gear safe until she returns. Left alone, the scientist stares at the flawless greens, reflecting on the bitter power struggle that got him exiled. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he realizes this godforsaken wasteland might actually be a gold mine. Meanwhile, back in the modern world, a quiet alleyway sits completely empty behind a local supermarket. Our boy is already making his next move, waiting patiently as a massive transport truck rolls up. A stocky driver hops out with a heavy box of raw meat, asking where to drop the massive haul. With a confident smirk, he just points toward the secluded alley, ready to stash it all in his ring. The delivery guys unload the massive haul, with the rookie questioning why anyone needs 20 grand worth of raw meat. But the veteran driver quickly shuts him down, barking at him to mind his own business and keep working. Once the truck finally rolls out, our boy is left completely alone with his massive stockpile. He glances around the secluded alleyway, relieved that there are 0 security cameras to capture what happens next. Without this hidden blind spot, he would have absolutely nowhere to stash this ridiculous mountain of supplies. Tapping into his ring's power, a spatial distortion wraps around the towering pile of cardboard boxes. In the blink of an eye, the entire delivery vanishes into his interdimensional storage without a trace. Still, Chen Yang knows this sketchy alleyway drop-off is not a viable long-term strategy for his growing empire. If someone catches him making tons of cargo disappear, The internet will dox him into oblivion. Realizing he needs a solid cover, he decides it is time to rent a massive private warehouse. He figures that while he is at it, he should partner up directly with a food factory to secure an endless, diverse supply of grub. To test a theory, he pulls an ice-cold popsicle straight out of his ring, marveling at how time is completely frozen within the spatial dimension. Tearing open the wrapper, a crisp wave of frost hits the air, proving his stash is perfectly preserved. This absolute game-changer means he can hoard mountains of fresh produce and raw meat without ever worrying about it rotting away. Strolling down the street with his frozen treat, our boy is feeling pretty damn invincible. His good mood peaks when he gets a call confirming that his very own front company, Shenyang Technology, is officially registered and ready for business. Stepping out into the sunlight, he pumps his fist, hyped that his grand empire has finally taken its first real breath. Riding that high, he heads back to his apartment and casually pushes the door open to greet his flatmate, Jo Dandan. She pauses her cleaning, leaning on her mop to demand where the hell he rushed off to in such a hurry earlier. Flopping down onto the couch like he owns the world, he just smirks as she crosses her arms and asks if he finally went out to get a real job interview. Shenyang casually drops the bomb that his job hunting days are over since he just founded his own company. Dandan leans in dangerously close, completely dumbfounded by his wild claim. Staring him down, she flat out refuses to buy it, asking if he really thinks she is gullible enough to believe that. Scrambling for a solid cover story, our boy quickly lies that his old family estate was bought out for a massive redevelopment. The excuse works perfectly, and she suddenly realizes that is exactly why he was throwing cash around at a luxury hotel last night. Slumping back onto the cushions beside him, she lets out a heavy sigh, deeply envious of his sudden windfall. She bitterly mutters that even if her own rundown hometown got demolished, it wouldn't pay out a single dime. Completely oblivious to the fact that her revealing outfit is giving him a nosebleed, she casually asks about his new salary. Rubbing her temples, she complains about her own pathetic paycheck, admitting she would be starving on the streets without her corporate meal plan. Utterly deflated, she melts into the sofa, begging the universe to bless her with some overnight wealth cut from the same cloth. He chuckles, bluntly telling her that getting rich overnight just isn't in the cards, but flashing a confident grin, our boy casually asks if she wants to work for his company. Leaning in, he sweetens the deal by offering to triple her current trash-tier salary. He proudly declares he can pay her 15 grand a month, radiating pure boss energy. Dumbfounded by the massive number, she just stares at him in absolute shock. Her mind immediately starts racing, calculating that she could save nearly 100 grand a year. Jumping up, she excitedly realizes this means unlimited hot pot and designer bags whenever she wants. Scratching his head at her sudden burst of energy, he asks if she is officially on board, but she quickly reels it in, crossing her arms and worrying his startup might go bankrupt immediately. Pushing up her glasses, she demands the full rundown on his business before making any final decisions. Pulling out a pen, she gets dead serious and prepares to take notes on his grand master plan. Our boy casually explains that he just registered a $1 million gaming company, making her nod along carefully. But she quickly calls out how incredibly sketchy this sounds, realizing he literally has nothing but raw cash. She points out the obvious flaw, asking how a gaming startup plans to survive without a single tech developer. Flashing a confident smirk, he brushes off her worries and claims that is exactly their biggest competitive advantage. He tasks her with finding a proper office building and securing their licenses while she stretches out. Suddenly heading for the door, she leaves him utterly confused as he asks what she is doing. Flashing a bright smile, she playfully states the obvious, declaring she is off to quit her trash-tier job. Left alone, he sheds comical tears of joy, deeply moved that she is actually putting her faith in him. His emotional moment is cut short when his phone suddenly begins to ring, signaling his next big move. He picks up the call with a casual greeting, completely unaware of the bombshell about to drop. His entire demeanor instantly shatters as a heavy wave of dread washes over him, catching Dandan's attention. Seeing his pale, sweat-drenched face, she immediately asks what could possibly have gone so wrong. Clenching his trembling fists, our boy reveals that his frail grandfather was just diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. The doctors delivered the grim news to his devastated family, giving the old man barely a month to live. Knowing time is running out, he realizes he desperately needs to head back home for one final goodbye. Without missing a beat, Dandan steps up and urges him to pack his bags and catch the earliest flight. She literally pushes him out the door, promising to handle all the messy corporate paperwork while he is gone. Looking back at his new business partner, he flashes a grateful smile and sincerely thanks her for having his back. Left slightly dumbfounded by his earnest gratitude, she watches him leave, realizing just how much he trusts her. Waving off his thanks, Don Don playfully reminds him that roommates look out for each other before shooing him away. Bursting through the door, our boy refuses to accept that his grandfather's life is just going to end here. Striding through the city, he realizes the advanced enhancement serums from the wasteland might be the miracle cure. He quickly makes his way to the bustling imperial capital high-speed railway station to catch the next train. Just as he checks his ticket, a familiar voice suddenly calls out his name from behind. Turning around, he instantly recognizes the blonde beauty as Lu Churan, an old face from his past. She playfully leans in, thrilled to run into her former classmate after 7 long years apart. Discovering they are both heading back to Wanghai City, the two easily fall back into a friendly rhythm. Right on cue, the station intercom announces that ticket inspection for their high-speed train is finally beginning. Flashing a warm smile, he suggests they catch up on the ride, and she happily agrees to tag along. Eager to chat, Lucharan asks where he is sitting, offering to make his seatmate swap with her. Our boy flashes his ticket with a sheepish grin, admitting he had to snag a last-minute business class seat. Hearing that, her excitement instantly deflates, since she is stuck back in the cramped economy cars. Seeing her disappointed pout, he casually suggests they just wait until they reach the city to hang out. But before she can fully sulk, he flashes a confident smirk and decides to handle the problem himself. Utterly dumbfounded, the blonde beauty just stands there wondering what on earth he is planning to do. Telling her to wait right there, he confidently marches straight up to the boarding gate staff. Panicking slightly, she reaches out to stop him, terrified he is about to make a massive scene. Ignoring her worries, he casually asks the staff if there are any extra business class seats available to buy. The attendant politely smiles, revealing that his entire premium 4-seat row is completely empty anyway. Without missing a beat, he tells the staff to upgrade her ticket and put her right next to him. Hearing that, her eyes light up with absolute sheer excitement. The attendant quickly processes the request, handing the stunned girl her brand new business class pass. Overjoyed, she throws her arms around him in a massive, unexpected hug. Caught completely off guard by the sudden contact, his face flushes red. He awkwardly stammers out a polite response, trying his best to keep his composure. Settling into their spacious seats, she marvels at the luxury of business class for the very first time. Curious, she then asks why he is suddenly heading back home when he works in the capital. His confident demeanor fades as he quietly admits that his grandfather has fallen seriously ill. Seeing his sorrow, she gently pats his shoulder, reassuring him that modern medicine will definitely pull him through. Changing the subject, our boy asks what brings her all the way out to the imperial capital. She nervously rubs her neck, admitting she came to drum up some desperate business for her dad's factory. Remembering their past, he recalls that her family actually runs a massive food processing plant. Sighing heavily, she explains that competing with big-name brands has left their family business struggling to survive. Slumping against the window, she mutters that they can barely even afford to pay their workers' wages anymore. Hearing this, a light bulb goes off in his head since he desperately needs a massive food supplier. He realizes this is the perfect chance to help an old friend while feeding his growing wasteland faction. Clearing his throat with a confident smirk, he casually mentions that he might just be her savior. As she stares at him dumbfounded, he reveals he is actively hunting for a long-term food supply contract. Her eyes light up with absolute joy, completely stunned by this sudden stroke of incredible luck. Our boy agrees to the deal but insists on doing a proper site inspection first. Suddenly curious, she wonders why a fresh college grad like him needs such a massive stockpile. Sweating slightly, he quickly fabricates a cover story about his new company's demanding business partners. Satisfied with his excuse, she eagerly pulls out her phone to exchange contact information. With a quick beep, their profiles link up, sealing the first step of their lucrative partnership. Stepping outside the station, he hops into a taxi, mentioning he needs to visit his dying grandpa first. The cab door slams shut as he finally heads toward the hospital to deliver the wasteland cure. She waves him off enthusiastically, watching the yellow taxi disappear down the bustling street. Blushing deeply, she clutches her phone, wondering if this miraculous reunion was actually a stroke of fate. Her romantic daydreaming is abruptly cut short when her family driver pulls up, shouting her name. Snapping out of her romantic daze, Churan sprints toward the waiting car with her pink suitcase trailing behind. She hops into the passenger seat, cheerfully greeting the burly man behind the wheel, who is actually her father. When he asks how her corporate negotiations went, she playfully teases him with a good news, bad news scenario. Her dad instantly tenses up, bracing himself for the worst as he asks for the bad news first. With a completely unbothered smile, she admits her trip was a total bust without securing a single partnership. Dumbfounded by her cheerful attitude over a business failure, he cautiously asks what the good news could possibly be. She excitedly explains her old classmate Chen Yang is a gold mine, promising a massive factory order very soon. Being a seasoned businessman, her old man suspects foul play, warning her that this miraculous reunion reeks of a scam. Meanwhile, our boy finally arrives at the towering city hospital, his mind entirely focused on saving his dying grandfather. As he approaches the ward, the attending physician steps out, looking absolutely stunned to see him back so soon. Our boy wastes no time, immediately demanding an update on his grandfather's fragile condition. The physician gently pats his shoulder, explaining the old man is finally resting after taking his meds. Nodding grimly, Chen Yang walks down the quiet hallway with a heavy burden on his shoulders. Needing absolute privacy for his next move, he slips into an empty bathroom stall. He swiftly locks the door behind him, ensuring no one interrupts his desperate plan. His expression hardens as he realizes the clock is rapidly ticking down on his grandfather's life. Clenching his fists, he vows to scour the apocalyptic future for a miraculous cure. In a blinding flash of interdimensional energy, he completely vanishes from the modern world. Instantly reappearing in the gritty slums of the wasteland, he wonders if his loyal secretary is nearby. With time running out, he debates tracking down the eccentric scientist, unsure if the old butcher is trustworthy. Arriving at Lilu's rusty shack, our boy bangs on the door to see if she is home. He casually strolls inside, only to freeze when he catches her completely off guard and half-dressed. His enhanced body reacts instantly, sending a massive geyser of blood shooting straight out of his nose. Flustered and dripping blood, he aggressively turns around and barks at her to put some damn clothes on. Once she finally zips up her top, the two of them step out into the gritty wasteland streets. Noticing his frantic energy, Lilu asks her boss what has him rushing around like a madman. Getting straight to the point, he desperately asks if this trashed future actually cures terminal cancer. She casually explains that, since the nuclear cataclysm made cancer as common as a cold, a cure was mandatory. Hope surging through his veins, he clenches his fist and eagerly demands to know the exact survival rate. Shrugging, she admits the cure rate used to be near perfect, though nobody keeps track of statistics anymore. A massive wave of relief washes over our boy. Thrilled his gamble on this trash-tier future actually paid off, he immediately turns to his secretary, practically vibrating with excitement as he asks if Grey Rat Town sells it. Scratching her head awkwardly, she admits that finding something that advanced in this dump isn't exactly easy. His hopeful smile instantly shatters into a completely dumbfounded grimace. She quickly explains that the Doctors Association produces a cellular disease serum that perfectly wipes out cancer cells. Hearing that, he doesn't waste a single second, marching off and ordering her to lead him to their headquarters. When she tries to stop him, he snaps back impatiently, desperate to secure the cure for his dying grandfather. But before he can storm off, she casually reaches into her hip pouch and pulls out a glowing syringe. Flashing a proud smile, she reveals she already bartered for a dose using his massive stash of junk food. Completely amazed by her efficiency, he happily admires the glowing serum, finally holding his grandfather's salvation in his hands. She casually mentions that she scored the cure from the Doctors Association by trading a single cabbage. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, staring at the miracle drug in disbelief over the absurdly cheap price. Waving her hands nervously, she quickly clarifies that this single syringe is actually just a free bonus. Before he can even process that, she grabs his hand and drags him toward the back room. With a heavy thud, she slams a massive metal briefcase down onto the dusty table. Popping it open, she reveals the real prize, a complete set of top-tier enhancement serums. Staring at the glowing vials, he breaks into a cold sweat, utterly overwhelmed by the sheer value. Misinterpreting his stunned silence, she starts panicking, worried she got scammed out of his incredibly precious cabbage. But inside, he is practically dancing with joy, realizing his literal trash-tier groceries are worth a fortune. Striking a triumphant pose, he realizes he just unlocked infinite cheat-level wealth by exploiting these clueless wastelanders. Lilu nervously holds out the glowing vials, terrified he thinks she completely botched the trade. He gently reaches out to the metal case, his mind racing with the possibilities of this haul. With a satisfying click, he snaps the lid shut, officially securing his newfound interdimensional fortune. Grabbing her shoulders with a huge grin, he reassures her that this deal is an absolute massive win. He practically spins her around in joy, declaring his loyal secretary to be his ultimate lucky star. Blushing furiously, she shyly admits that she just wants to be useful to her incredible boss. Sitting back down, he orders her to lock in this exact exchange rate and buy out their supply. Hearing that the wasteland distributor is eager for more fresh food, our boy rubs his chin with keen interest. As the harsh wasteland sun beats down outside, He realizes this connection could be his golden ticket. Crossing his arms, he listens intently as she reveals their new business partner is a Tier 9 enhanced human. Worried about the danger, Lilu suggests they find a safer buyer if the stakes are too high. But our boy just smirks, waving off her concern and declaring this guy the perfect partner. Completely dumbfounded, she asks him what makes this dangerous exile such a great catch. He confidently explains that this wasteland scientist possesses 3 massive advantages they desperately need right now. First off, his top-tier status grants him exclusive clearance to secure high-end gear, like biological armor. Second, the exiled scientist is absolutely desperate to claw his way back into the ruling faction's inner circle. That burning ambition guarantees he will need a massive, long-term supply of food to fund his revenge. Realizing the sheer genius of his logic, she eagerly asks what the final advantage could possibly be. Flashing a sharp grin, Chen Yang simply states that their new partner is a genuinely smart man. That vague answer goes right over her head, leaving his loyal secretary scratching her head in total confusion. He points out that the scientist instantly knew she wasn't the boss, yet held back from forcing a bad deal. Standing up with a confident swagger, our boy notes that this restraint proves the exiled man's true intelligence. Hearing this, the red-haired sniper blushes deeply, finally realizing she didn't actually mess up the high-stakes negotiation. Flashing a warm smile, he reassures his loyal secretary that she actually did a fantastic job holding her ground. With a newfound spring in her step, she eagerly steps closer to the man who changed her life. Clasping her hands together, she beams with gratitude and thanks him for having so much faith in her abilities. Wasting no time, he reaches down and firmly grabs the heavy metal briefcase containing their newly acquired goods. He casually mentions he will take the enhancement serums for now, and they can hash out the rest tomorrow. But her smile instantly vanishes, and she frantically warns him that injecting another serum so soon is pure suicide. Stopping dead in his tracks, our boy looks back with a completely dumbfounded expression, wondering what the problem is. She sternly explains that his body isn't invincible, and there is a strict cooldown period between enhancement tiers. The sniper breaks down the math, noting that higher-tier serums require days of rest before the next dose. Still holding his stash, our boy casually asks what happens if he just ignores the waiting period entirely. Pointing right at him, she snaps that he has to let his cells fully absorb the raw power first. If he rushes the process, she warns that his physical form will literally break down from the overwhelming strain. Hearing that his body could collapse from the sheer pressure leaves him absolutely paralyzed with terror. Sweating bullets, he asks how he will know it is safe, but she vaguely promises he will feel it. Deciding not to push his luck, he waves goodbye to his secretary and heads off with his precious cargo. Back in his original timeline, the sun shines brightly over the towering Wanghai City People's Hospital. Deep inside a random bathroom stall, a familiar spatial distortion ripples through the air as he teleports back. Materializing right back on the hospital toilet, our boy clutches his metal briefcase with a massive grin. He realizes the wasteland is an absolute goldmine, thrilled that his interdimensional supply run went so smoothly. Pulling out a glowing pink syringe, he knows this futuristic healing serum is exactly what his dying grandfather needs. Outside, the city hospital remains completely oblivious to the reality-bending miracle currently sitting inside its walls. Down in the sterile corridors, his father listens grimly as a female physician delivers some harsh medical advice. She urges the older man to carefully weigh their limited options, her tone leaving no room for false hope. Sweating and visibly overwhelmed by the crushing reality, his dad mutters that he needs more time to think. Just then, Chen Yang strides down the hallway, completely unaware of the heavy atmosphere hanging over the ward. He glances at the passing physician, silently wondering if she is the one handling his grandfather's terminal case. Seeing his father's devastated, shadow-cast expression, our boy grabs his arm and anxiously asks what the doctor just said. Tears well up in the older man's eyes as he chokes out the doctor's grim recommendation for hospice care. Dumbfounded by the medical jargon, our boy immediately demands to know what that actually means for his grandfather. His father explains it involves discharging the frail old man and just pumping him with painkillers until the end. The crushing reality hits Chen Yang like a truck, twisting his face into a mask of pure disbelief. He furiously realizes the hospital is essentially telling them to take the old man home to just wait for death. Gripping his father's arm, he listens as the older man admits the cancer has completely spread beyond modern medical help. Turns out, the attending physician knew their ordinary family couldn't afford astronomically expensive treatments for 2 extra months. Taking a deep breath to steady his racing heart, our boy finally nods, claiming he understands the heavy financial burden. With a heavy sigh, his dad gently pats his shoulder and suggests they go inside to see the old man. Stepping into the quiet ward, they gaze down at the frail patriarch, unaware that a futuristic miracle is imminent. The frail patriarch slowly opens his heavy eyes, barely clinging to life. Our boy immediately rushes to his side, gently gripping his trembling hand, as the old man weakly calls out. Giving them a moment, his dad excuses himself to handle the grim discharge paperwork. As he steps out, the older man finally breaks down, covering his face to hide his quiet sobs. Left alone, Chen Yang scans the room, relieved to find no security cameras watching them. Leaning in close, he whispers to his grandfather that he brought a miracle drug to cure him. Pulling out a syringe of glowing pink serum, he asks if the old man is willing to try. Dumbfounded by the strange liquid, the patriarch hesitates before letting out a soft hum of agreement. Figuring he is beyond saving anyway, the old man decides to just humor his grandson's desperate attempt. Wasting no time, Chen Yang steadily pierces the frail vein, pushing the futuristic miracle into his bloodstream. The room falls dead silent as the old man stares at the injection site, waiting for the inevitable. Sweat beads down our boy's face as he silently prays to whatever gods are listening that this works. Suddenly, the patriarch's face flushes a deep crimson as a strange, hot steam begins radiating from his frail body. Clutching his chest in apparent agony, the old man gasps, sending his grandson into an absolute panic. The elder's eyes snap wide open, blood vessels bulging as the futuristic medicine violently rewrites his failing cells. But instead of collapsing, he throws his hands up in pure bliss, completely dumbfounded that all his pain has vanished. Seeing his grandfather practically glowing with health, our boy pumps his fist, absolutely hyped that the wasteland tech delivered. However, the celebration is cut short when the old man tightly grips his arm, his expression turning deadly serious. He warns his grandson that pulling a dying man from the grave will put a massive target on his back. Brushing off the grim warning with a warm smile, the young man simply tells him not to worry about it. He confidently gives a thumbs up, insisting that playing it off as a medical miracle will keep them completely safe. Hiding the empty syringe, he reminds the old man that they are the only two who know the truth. Looking healthier than ever, the patriarch flashes a grin and swears to take the secret to his grave. With the crisis averted, our boy waves goodbye and heads out to fetch a doctor for a proper checkup. Strolling down the sterile hallway, his smile fades as he realizes selling the wasteland serum here is too risky. Spotting a security camera, he curses his lack of knowledge about how the futuristic medicine is actually manufactured. Leaning against the wall, he stresses over the fact that he can't even guarantee a steady supply. Staring at the empty needle, he realizes that exposing his interdimensional travel would spell absolute doom. Not taking any chances, he uses his spatial storage to make the incriminating evidence vanish into thin air. Stepping through the doors, his eyes harden as he acknowledges that while his portal ring is irreplaceable, he isn't. Clenching his fist, he vows to level up his combat skills so he can crush any future threats. Stepping back into the sterile hallway, he spots the front desk and quickly formulates a cover story. Playing the part of a panicked grandson, he frantically begs the staff to check on bed 43. The attendant on duty gives him a skeptical glare, casually pulling up the old man's medical chart. Seeing the terminal liver cancer diagnosis, she assumes a sudden recovery is biologically impossible. She even checks his temperature, bluntly asking if the grief is making him hallucinate things. Out of patience, our boy grabs her wrist and physically drags her down the hall to see for herself. Pushing the door open, he smugly gestures inside to prove he isn't losing his mind. Sure enough, the supposedly bedridden patriarch is casually strolling around the room like he just woke up. The poor girl is left completely dumbfounded, her jaw hitting the floor at the impossible sight. Panicking out of her mind, the nurse sprints down the hallway to fetch the attending physician. Watching her scramble, our boy flashes a smug grin, thrilled that the wasteland serum actually worked. The old man is just as amazed, laughing heartily as he realizes his terminal illness has vanished. Seconds later, the lead doctor bursts through the door, demanding to know where her dying patient went. She practically rips the door off its hinges, unable to believe a stage 4 cancer victim is walking. Wasting no time, she sits the patriarch down and immediately begins a frantic physical examination. Chen Yang's father hovers nervously nearby, practically begging the physician for any shred of good news. Pulling away her stethoscope, the doctor admits with absolute disbelief that the old man is in perfect shape. Playing the part of the naive grandson, Chen Yang claps his hands and asks about a full recovery. Still trying to process this medical miracle, the doctor insists on running a comprehensive battery of tests immediately. Chen Yang plays along with the charade, urging the old man to let the machines prove his miraculous recovery. Trusting our boy completely, his grandfather happily agrees to go along with whatever he suggests. The stunned physician leads the family down the hall, desperate to get some concrete medical answers. She even waives all the examination fees, clearly viewing this impossible anomaly as a personal research project. Completely oblivious to her scientific curiosity, The older men just smile and thank her for her generosity. Back in her office, Chen Yang's father practically leaps across the room the second the scans come through. Staring at the results, the physician confirms that every single trace of the terminal cancer has completely vanished. Feeling 20 years younger, the patriarch starts flexing his muscles while our boy nervously tries to calm him down. His dad immediately scolds the old man, terrified that moving too fast might shatter this fragile miracle. But the doctor just taps the flawless CT scans, assuring the frantic family that his body is absolutely perfect. The stunned physician reveals that, alongside the cancer, all of the old man's age-related ailments have completely vanished. Narrowing her eyes at our boy, she points out he was the only person present during this impossible miracle. Adjusting her glasses with intense scrutiny, she demands to know exactly what he did to trigger such a recovery. Sweating bullets, Chen Yang plays dumb and claims his grandpa simply woke up after hearing about future marriage plans. The doctor insists that completely defies science, but our boy just shrugs it off as the sheer power of willpower. Eager to leave, Chen Yang's dad nervously asks if they can finally process the official discharge papers. The physician hesitates, causing the anxious father to immediately panic and ask if there is a hidden catch. She quickly clarifies that she just wants to monitor this incredibly rare case and check up on his health regularly. Relieved, the family eagerly agrees to cooperate while Chen Yang smoothly invites the beautiful doctor to visit them anytime. Scheduling a final follow-up for next week, the physician watches dumbfounded as the ecstatic family happily waves goodbye. As they stroll down the hall, the old man cheekily asks our boy if the physician is single. But the doctor isn't fooled for a second, absolutely convinced that Chen Yang is hiding a massive secret. Retreating to her private office, she desperately tries to wrap her head around the impossible medical anomaly. She realizes that if this doomed patient could miraculously bounce back, then maybe another prominent figure could too. Refusing to let this slide, she immediately grabs her phone to share the unbelievable news. Meanwhile, at the lavish Chu family estate, a high-ranking corporate heiress is interrupted by a sudden ringing. Flanked by her entourage, she answers with a smile, warning her friend that she's rushing to a meeting. The physician cuts right to the chase, revealing that her terminal liver cancer patient just made a full recovery. Stopping dead in her tracks, the heiress is completely dumbfounded by the sheer impossibility of the news. The doctor confirms that every trace of cancer has completely vanished from the old man's body. Realizing the magnitude of this discovery, the heiress immediately orders her staff to postpone all her meetings. Desperate for answers, she paces the hall and demands to know exactly what experimental treatments were used. But the physician bluntly admits that this miraculous recovery had absolutely nothing to do with her medical plans. Refusing to hit a dead end, the corporate boss orders a full copy of the patient's detailed medical records. The doctor agrees to send the files over, though she warns her friend that the charts are completely useless. Instead of wasting time on paperwork, she strongly advises the heiress to investigate the patient's grandson directly. She explains that the old man was on his deathbed until his grandson showed up for a sudden visit. Dropping Chen Yang's name, the doctor urges her to look into our boy privately to uncover his massive secret.